Most folks around here think they know me. They see a tiny old lady selling warm pies at the Phoenix Farmers Market, smiling like life's been nothing but sunshine and church hymns. They call me Grandma Betty, the friendly 78-year-old who always smells like cinnamon sugar and apple filling. But the piece I've got today, yeah, it didn't come free. I paid for it with fear, bruises, blood, and one choice that most 18-year-olds would have never survived making. This morning started like any other. I was in my little kitchen before the sun even bothered to show up, rolling out dough while the radio whispered some old country tune. My hands moved like they've been doing this forever. Press, fold, roll. It's muscle memory by now. After Patrick passed, baking became one thing that kept my heart steady. But every now and then, even after so many years, a certain smell or sound pulls me right back into memories I spent decades trying to bury. And today was one of those days. While I was slicing apples, my grandson Mason, 12 years old, sharp as a tack, asked me out of nowhere, "Grandma, what were you like when you were my age?" I froze for a second, because when I was his age, I wasn't running around with friends or doing homework on the couch. I was learning to stay silent, stay small, and stay out of the way of a man who treated fear like oxygen. But Mason doesn't need to know all that. Not yet. Still, I looked at him and something inside me whispered, "It's time. Tell your story before it disappears with you." So here I am, talking to you like you're sitting right across from me at my kitchen table. If you're listening, go ahead and drop a comment and subscribe. Not for fame, not for views. Nah, but because this story has lit locked in my chest long enough, and somebody out there might need to hear it. Let me take you back to Arizona, 1961. Back then, I wasn't Grandma Betty. I was just Betty Smith, a 15-year-old girl living in a dusty little town where the desert made everything feel quiet and forgotten. People minded their own business, sometimes a little too well. My daddy, James, was the kind of man folks respected from a distance. Tall, hard-faced, always smelling like sweat, dirt, and the fields he worked on. When he walked into a room, conversations died like someone snatched the air right out of it. My mama, Patricia, was the opposite. Soft voice, sweet of heart. She kept our tiny home warm even when the world outside felt cold. She loved singing while she cooked, wiping dust off the shelves and hugging us like it was her full-time job. But here's the thing about childhood. Sometimes your eyes see the truth before your brain knows how to name it. Those little accidents Mama had, the bruises she smiled through, the way her voice stuttered when Daddy's boots hit his porch. Back then, I didn't understand, but I felt something was wrong. I grew up in a house where you learned real quick that silence wasn't just a rule, it was survival. My brothers and I knew the routine. Daddy home equals stay small, stay quiet, don't breathe too loud. Mama called it respect. Now I knew for what it was. Fear wearing Sunday clothes. And at 15, I started noticing things I couldn't ignore anymore. The way Daddy looked at Mama. The way Mama flinched. The way a storm lived in our house even on clear days. And that storm, it was building, getting louder, getting ready to break wide open. But I didn't know then that the hurricane wasn't coming from Mama alone. It was coming from me. Hold on tight, my dears, because the night everything changed is up next. What happened on the night of my 15th birthday wasn't just the start of the storm. It was the crack in the door that showed me to monster living in my own home. And once you see a monster clearly, you can't unsee it.
Turning 15 should have been one of those soft golden memories you hold on to for life. The kind you tell your kids about when they ask what being young felt like. But my 15th birthday, yeah, that day is burned into me like a scar. Mama had spent the whole morning humming while she bakes me a little chocolate cake. Nothing fancy, we were too broke for fancy, but she'd melted the chocolate slow so it wouldn't burn, and she'd whipped the icing real fluffy. I remember her hands shaking while she worked, though she tried to hide it. Some of our neighbors, folks Mama trusted, came over with small gifts, a ribbon, a comb, a little bar of soap wrapped in brown paper. The whole house smelled like cake and coffee, and for a moment, just a moment, I felt normal. I felt happy. Kids were laughing, the ladies were chatting, the house was full of that warm buzz of people just being people. And then his boots hit the porch. Lord, I can still hear that sound. Heavy, slow, final, like a judge walking into a courtroom. Daddy stepped through the doorway and the air dropped 10 degrees. That man didn't yell right away. No, he didn't have to. His silence was louder than thunder. Everybody froze. Even Mama's smile cracked a little, like she felt something awful coming. "What's all this noise?" he said. Voice low and sharp. "Looks like some kind of rich folks' party in here." Nobody dared to answer. Mama stepped forward, smoothing her apron like she could iron out his anger. "It's Betty's birthday," she whispered, "just a little gathering." But Daddy stared at her like she'd spit in his food. "A party?" He repeated it, slow. "Using up money we don't have for a kick?" His voice curled round the world like it disgusted him. One of the older ladies, Mrs. Karen, bless her heart, tried to soften things. "Oh, James, it's just a symbol." He cut her off with a glare so cold, I swear the poor woman shrank 2 inches. That was the first time I saw Mama's hands trembled so hard she had to hold them together. Daddy stepped closer, slow and dangerous, like a wolf backing prey into a corner. "You answering back now?" he growled at Mama. She barely got out a word, and in that moment, every woman in that room knew what was about to happen. He raised his hand, not fast, just slow enough to make the terror bloom in her eyes, and the neighbors suddenly remembered they had places to be. They gathered their things, muttered excuses, and hurried out like the house was on fire. And in some ways, it was. When the door closed and the last footsteps faded down the dusty road, Daddy lowered his hand, but the damage was already done. The threat hung in the room like black smoke. "We'll talk later." His voice made every hair on my arm stand up. That night, the house every was holding its breath. Daddy walked around angry, quiet angry, the worst kind. Mama moved like a ghost, and me, I lay awake, listening, waiting, trying to pretend my heart wasn't trying to punch its way out of my chest. The next morning, Mama had a fresh bruise on her forehead. "Just bumped into the door," she whispered, but she couldn't look me in the eye. That was the day I stopped believing her excuses. That was the day the truth started tearing little holes in the curtains of childhood Bunny used to hide behind. And the smallest hole, it let in a whole lot of darkness. What came next
wasn't just anger. It wasn't just shouting. It was the moment I first saw the truth. My father wasn't a man losing control. He was a man who loved control, and he was ready to take it further than any of us imagined.
After that ruined birthday, the whole vibe inside our house shifted like somebody had flipped a switch and killed the lights. Even in the daytime, the place felt dim. You ever walk into a room and just feel something's wrong before anyone even says a word? Yeah, that was our house, 24/7. Daddy didn't yell much after that. He didn't have to. He walked around with this cold silence, the kind that made your skin crawl before he even touched you. Mama stopped humming while she cooked. Robert and Caleb didn't roughhouse in the living room like normal boys. Even the old wooden floor knew better than to creak when he passed by. We lived like we were trying not to wake a sleeping bear. But the thing about monsters, they don't sleep. They wait. It was little things at first. Daddy watching Mama too closely, questioning where she'd been, what she was doing, why she took too long at the well. Mama started moving quieter, standing straighter, talking less. She'd blink if someone shut a door too hard. I noticed everything. Maybe because I was growing up. Or maybe because fear sharpens your vision. Then one hot afternoon, everything changed. I was out by the well, hauling up water, the sun beating down so hard you could almost hear it sizzling on the dirt. That's when I heard it. Something like a thud, then another, then a low moan. Not the kind a person makes when they're tired. More like someone trying not to scream. My stomach dropped. I crept to the kitchen doorway and froze. Daddy had Mama cornered, his hand wrapped around her neck, pushing her into the wall. Her feet barely touched the ground. His face was twisted, not angry, not frustrated, but something darker, something that made me sick. "Don't you ever leave this house without telling me," he hissed. Mama tried to talk, tried to breathe, but he slammed his fist into her stomach so hard. She folded like a rag doll. I swear my soul left my body for a second. That's when Daddy saw me. Just turned his head and looked straight at me, dead-eyed, unbothered like a stray cat wandering in at the wrong moment. And he didn't drop his hand, didn't apologize, nothing. "Come here, Betty." My knees nearly gave out, but I walked forward because, well, what else do you do when the devil knows your name? He let go of Mama and she crumpled to the floor, gasping like she was drowning on dry land. He put that same hand, still shaking from hitting her, on my shoulder. His grip was like iron. "What you saw," he whispered, leaning in so close I could smell the sour sweat on his shirt, "never happened, understand me?" I nodded, but he squeezed harder. "Tell me what you understood." I didn't do anything," I whispered. That earned me a smile, a sick, satisfied one. That's my girl. And right there, 15 years old, I realized something terrifying. Mom wasn't the only one he planned to control. The days after that got even worse. Mama spoke less, ate less, slept barely all. She drifted around the house like she was already fading from the world. Daddy watched her like a dog, waiting for someone to step out of line. But the worst part was how he started watching me. Not like a father, not like a protector, but like a man measuring something he wanted. One evening, Mama pulled me aside after dinner,
Her voice shook like she scared the walls with tattoo on her. Daddy, you don't ever be alone in this house with him, ever. I didn't ask why. I already knew. 2 weeks later, Mama was late coming home, and that tiny mistake, a few minutes of fading sunset, was the match that lit the wildfire. What happened that night tore our family open, and it never stitched together.
2 weeks passed after Mama whispered that warning to me, and every day inside our house felt like walking barefoot on broken glass. One wrong step, one wrong word, one wrong breath, and something would shatter. Then came that Tuesday. The one burned into my memory like a hot iron. December sunsets in rural Arizona drop fast. 1 minute it's light, the next it's straight up nighttime. Mama had gone to church for an evening service. She'd asked Daddy earlier if she could go, and he said yes, but with one condition. You be back before the sun is gone. Mama nodded quick, like he had given her permission to breathe. But that evening, things didn't go as planned. The service ran long. The pastor talked too much. The ladies stayed behind to help clean. That church was Mama's only slice of calm in her whole life. Her only safe place. Maybe she took a few extra minutes to feel human. But as the last bit of sunlight slipped behind the cacti, Mama stepped through her yard gate, shawl clutched tight, eyes wide with dread. I was in the kitchen stirring beans when I heard her footsteps. There's something about the way someone walks when they're fighting panic. You can hear the fear in their feet. Mama's breathing was shaky as she stepped into the living room. Daddy was already sitting in his wooden chair, not looking at her, not looking at anything, just waiting. "What time is it, Patricia?" His voice was low, too low. Mama swallowed hard. "James, please let me explain." "I ask you what time it is." "It's almost 7. He stood up like gravity didn't matter. "You disobeyed me in front of the whole damn town." Her hands trembled so much she had to hold them together. Caleb, just 5 years old, clung to her skirt because even he could feel the storm coming. "Kids," he growled, "go outside." "No," I said, too fast, too loud, too stupid. But something in me just snapped. Daddy's head turned slowly toward me like a rattlesnake noticing movement. "You want to learn the lesson with her?" he asked, voice low enough to make my bones shake. Mama shook Jan up to me. Take them, go." But my feet wouldn't move. My whole body went numb. All I could think was, I'm not letting him hit her again. "She didn't do anything wrong," I said. And I don't know what that voice came from, but it didn't sound scared. "She was in church. That's not a crime." The silence that dropped into the room after I said that. Worse than screaming, worse than this. My daddy's eyes darkened. He disappeared into the bedroom and came back holding something that still haunts my nightmares.
his thick leather belt, the one with the heavy metal buckle. I felt my knees go weak. You join I groan. He folded the belt in half. Then you're gonna learn like grown women. Mama tried to run, but she didn't make it 3 steps. The first strike cracked through the house like a gunshot. She went down screaming. I didn't think, I didn't hesitate. I threw myself on top of her without caring if I died right there. And then he turned the belt on me. The metal buckle slashed my skin. My back lit up in white-hot pain. My clothes touched my body from the blood. But nothing hurt worse than hearing my little brothers crying in the corner, begging him to stop. Then Mama did something nobody expected. She charged him, threw herself onto him with the strength of a mother trying to save her child. For a second, she almost wrestled the belt away. Almost. He shoved her so hard she flew across the room, and her head hit the corner of the table. The sound. Oh, God. I still wake up hearing that sound. Mama collapsed. Her body went limp. Her eyes stared at nothing. Daddy froze. I froze. The entire world froze. And then I swear on everything, Mama turned her head just a little and whispered, "Daddy, listen to me."
Mama lay crumpled on the dirt floor, too still, too quiet. Blood trickled down from her forehead, slipping into the cracks of the old boards like it was trying to escape the house too. I crawled to her, every movement burning fire across my back where the buckle had torn into me. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely touch her face. "Mama, Mama, please look at me." She didn't move at first. Then, slow, like she was lifting a mountain, her eyes shifted toward mine. "Betty, listen carefully." Her voice was barely a whisper, but every syllable hit harder than the belt ever did. "When he takes off the belt, look at it. Look at the buckle." "The buckle?" I whispered, confused and sobbing. Mama winced, like just breathing hurt her. She tried to raise her hand, but couldn't. "There's old blood on it," she gasped. "Not from today. Not from you. Not just me." I blinked through tears so bad I couldn't see her face clearly anymore. "What do you mean, Mama?" Her chest rose shallowly, once, twice, like she was running out of breath to spend. "When he takes off the belt, look at it. Look at the buckle." And her voice trembled, but her eyes stayed locked on mine, desperate. "Betty, when I'm gone, he's gonna come for you." My heart dropped to the floor.
No, Mama, don't say that. I grabbed her hand, cold already. You're not going anywhere. I'll help you up. We'll leave tonight. She gave a tiny shake of her head. I can't get up, but you can. You have to. No, Mama, don't. Promise me. When he sleeps, you run. Go to Mrs. Karen. Tell her everything. Don't let him take you too. Tears blurred my vision so bad I couldn't see her face clearly anymore. I promise, Mama. Her lips curled into the faintest smile, the kind people get when they finally put down a heavy burden. Then her eyes went glassy. Her chest stopped rising, and my world stopped with her. I don't remember how long I sat there. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. My brothers huddled beside me, crying, soft, scared to breathe too loud. Daddy stalked around the room, pretending he just killed his wife. She'll be fine, just needs rest. Women exaggerate. Rest. Mama wasn't resting. Mama was gone. But Daddy didn't take her to a doctor, didn't call the sheriff, didn't even say her name. He just walked to his room, slipped the belt back through his loops like it was any other night, and went to sleep. Slept, snored, like he hadn't just destroyed our entire family. I sat beside Mama's body until the sun started creeping into the room. Her hand was cold, her skin was pale, her eyes were half open, staring at the window like she was looking for a way out. When Daddy finally saw her motionless in the morning light, he put on a performance worthy of a Hollywood movie, crying, shouting, pretending to panic. Oh, God, Patricia, wake up, wake up. It made me sit watching him put on that mask again, like he hadn't drugged us all through hell. He ran to get the doctor from town. Dr. Evans came and checked Mama's pulse for 10 seconds. Sigh like he already had the answer prepared. Oh, looks like a heart attack, doctor. A heart attack. My fist clenched so tight, blood smearing across my tongue. A heart attack. Nobody questioned it. Nobody asked a single damn thing. Because in those days, a man's word weighed more than a woman's life. But I remembered Mama's whisper. Check the buckle. When I finally saw it, every doubt I'd ever had disappeared forever. Because the blood on that buckle wasn't just for Mama. It wasn't even new. It had been there, hiding in plain sight. Mama left me one last mission. Show the world what he did. And the day of her wake, the day the whole town gathered, is the day I found the proof that turned whispers into a scream.
Mama's wake was held 2 days later. 2 days of silence, 2 days of trying to keep my brothers from falling apart. 2 days of pretending Daddy wasn't the devil wearing a button-down shirt. The neighbors came early, carrying casseroles wrapped in towels, plates of cornbread, and empty condolences. You could feel the guilt dripping off them. Those same people who rushed out of our house the night Mama got hit. They avoided my eyes, avoided the floorboards, avoided the truth. Daddy played his part perfectly. Tears, shaky voice, handkerchiefs pressed to his cheek. A heart attack, he repeat. Took her real sudden.
They nodded sympathetically, because why question a man crying? Why question a woman who wasn't alive to defend herself? I sat near Mama's closed casket, hands clasped, back still burning from the belt. My dress rubbed against the wounds, but I didn't flinch. Pain felt like the only thing keeping me conscious. Miss Karen came over and hugged me tight. "You poor child," she whispered. "Your mama loved you something fierce." I held on to her like she was the last safe thing in the world. Mama had told me to go to her, so I would. Just not yet. Not until I had proof. Later, when the wait quieted, Oaks floated around sipping weak lemonade, I slipped away into the back hallway, straight to Daddy's room. My heart pounded so loud, I was sure someone would hear it. The door creaked when I pushed it open. The smell of his sweat and tobacco almost made me gag. And there it was, hanging from the nail above his dressing, the belt. The same one he used, the same one Mama warned me about. Hands shaking, I took it down, held it under the window light. The leather was worn, cracked from years of use, but the buckle, that heavy, ugly metal buckle, held the truth Mama died to tell me. The dried lead wasn't just brown, it was layered. Old and dark in the grooves, newer and redder near the edge. This wasn't from one night. This wasn't from one argument. This was the history book written in bruises. I flipped the belt over and froze, because carved into the back of the leather, faint but still readable, were initials: JS, CS, PS. I guessed. Those weren't random letters. JS, James Smith, Daddy. CS, Caleb Smith, my baby brother. PS, Patricia Smith, Mama. And below them, like it was scratched in later, clumsier, desperate, BS. Me! My knees almost buckled. He'd carved our names into the weapon he used, like trophies, like ownership, like he marked us the way Reg had branded cattle. I draft the belt, breath shaking, hands trembling so hard I could barely keep quiet. Rage crawled up my throat like fire. I wanted to scream, to break something, to wake the whole damn town. But Mama's voice echoed in my head. "Stay calm, Betty. Use your head. Truth is stronger than fear, if you live long enough to speak it." That's the belt under my dress, tight against my stomach so nobody could see the outline. The metal was cold on my skin, but I didn't care. I needed it out of that room. When I walked back into the living room, Daddy was shaking hands, playing the grieving husband. His eyes landed on me, then slid down to my hands, my dress, and I swear something dark flickered across his face. He knew something was off. "You all right, Betty?" he asked, voice smooth like poison honey. I swallowed hard, just tired. He stepped closer, too close. "Where have you been?" I forced myself to look him dead in the eyes. "In your room." The whole room went silent. Even the air felt nervous. His jaw tightened, his eyes sharpened, and he leaned down so low I could smell his tobacco on his breath and whispered in my ear, "What exactly did you take?" My blood ran cold. He knew. He knew the belt was gone. And if he found it on me, I'd never make it out alive. Before the week ended, Daddy decided he was going to check me. And the only thing standing between me and that belt was one unexpected person who stepped between us.
Daddy's question, what exactly did you take, hang in the air like smoke from a house fire. I could feel the belt pressed against my stomach under my dress, cold and heavy like a secret trying to expose itself. My pulse was pounding so loud, I swore the whole room could hear it. Nothing, I said, steady as I could manage. I didn't take anything. Daddy's eyes narrowed. Not angry, yet suspicious, calculating, the way a predator looks at something that might try to run. He stepped closer, close enough his shadow swallowed mine. Lift your dress, he whispered darkly. Let me check. My heart stopped, literally stopped. He was about to find it, the belt, the evidence, the truth Mama died to protect. My hand started trembling. My breath caught halfway up my throat. I couldn't run. There were too many people in the house. I couldn't scream. He'd twisted into a hysterical burl acting out, and I damn sure couldn't fight him. Not alone. His hand reached out, sliding toward my arm, slow, claiming, certain. And just as his fingers grazed my sleeve, a hand slapped down on his wrist, hard. Back off, James. The whole room gasped. Daddy jerked his head toward the voice, shocked, offended, ready to explode. And there, standing between us like a wall I never expected, was Sheriff Douglas Hart. Not some young, shiny sheriff from a big city. New. Old Doug. Gray mustache, weather boots. The man who used to sneak us kids peppermint drops after church. A man who didn't talk much but watched everything. I asked her a question, and she answered it, Sheriff Doug replied. Calm, firm, unshakable. Daddy scoffed. This is family business. You got no reason to step in. Patricia's death gives me every reason, the sheriff said, voice low but sharp. I need to speak with your children. Alone. The room fell silent, the kind of silence that trembles. Daddy laughed, one of those fake, forced laughs meant to cover fury. You think my wife's death was suspicious. Sheriff Doug didn't blink. I think bruises don't appear on the dead for no reason. A shock wave went through me. He saw the marks. He knew something was wrong. Oh, Lord, someone finally knew. Daddy stepped closer, puffing his chest out. Watch yourself, Sheriff. No, Doug said, stepping right back into his face. You watch yourself. I am afraid of you, James Smith. Never was. The tension snapped like a stretched wire. Neighbors whispered. Kids backed away. Old ladies clutched their pearls like they were watching a showdown. Daddy wasn't used to anyone challenging him, especially not in public. You questioning me at my own home? Daddy growled. No, simply, I'm protecting a child in your home. His eyes flicked toward me, soft, reassuring, like he already knew I was hiding something. Betty, he said gently, come with me, sweetheart. My feet refused to move, fear anchoring me to the floor. If I stood up, the belt would shift. If it slipped, if it clanked, if Daddy heard that battle, game over. Daddy suddenly smirked, sensing my hesitation. See, he said, she's fine, just grieving. Go on home, Doug. Let us mourn in peace. But Doug didn't budge. He stepped between Daddy and me, completely blocking Daddy's view, and whispered softly, so only I could hear, Do you have something you need to show me? My breath caught. He knew.
He knew. I gave the smallest, barely there nod. "All right then," he murmured. "In a minute, when I say walk, you walk. Don't look back." My heart thundered against the belt under my dress. Daddy's voice suddenly rose behind us, booming like thunder. "Betty's not going anywhere." Sheriff Doug held his ground. The room held its breath. Then the sheriff said 5 words that changed everything. "James, you step aside, or else." Daddy didn't step aside. And what happened next shook the whole town and finally exposed the monster he'd been hiding for years.
Sheriff Doug's voice echoed through the room. "Step aside, James, or else." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Every adult in that house knew exactly what "or else" meant in a town like ours. Daddy wasn't used to losing control, especially not in front of a crowd. His pride was louder than his common sense. He didn't step aside. Of course he didn't. Instead, he squared his shoulders and growled, "She's my daughter. You don't tell me what to do in my own home." "She's a minor," Sheriff Doug shot back, calm as a surgeon, "and I'm the law. I'm taking her outside to talk, unless you want this to go a whole lot worse." Whispers rippled across the room. A few folks even backed toward the door, ready to bolt if things went sideways. Daddy's jaw flexed, and for the first time in my life, I saw him nervous. Not much, but enough. "Talk," Daddy sneered. "About what?" Doug's eyes didn't leave his. "About the marks on her back." My lungs stopped hurting. Daddy's eyes widened just for a split second, but that was enough. The town finally saw it. The crack in his mask, the truth bleeding through the lie. Mrs. Karen, clutching her purse, gasped softly. Mr. Howe, the quiet neighbor who never spoke, stared like he'd seen a ghost. Daddy tried to recover. He fell. Kids fall. She tripped over "let's save it." He cut him off with a raised hand. She didn't fall. And neither did Patricia. Dad's silence. Even the flies stopped moving. Daddy stepped forward, voice low and boiling. "You accusing me of something, Sheriff?" "I'm not accusing. I'm observing. Big difference." Daddy's fist curled on knuckles white. That's when Doug gently placed his hand behind me and said, "Betty, walk." My legs shook like wet cord, but I walked 1 step, 2 steps. The belt shifted under my dress, cold against my ribs. Daddy lunged. Sheriff Doug was faster. He shoved Daddy back so hard he hit the wall. Gas exploded through the room. "You lay 1 finger on that girl," Doug said, voice like thunder, "and I'll drag you out of here myself." Daddy's face twisted, half rage, half shock. Nobody had ever challenged him and lived to tell it. He growled, "I'll ruin you, Doug." "You can try," the sheriff replied. "I sleep fine at night." The tension snapped like a tree branch. Daddy threw a punch. Doug dodged it smooth, practiced, and slammed Daddy's wrist into the wall, pinning him. The room erupted into chaos. Kids crying, women screaming, men scrambling to pull Doug and Daddy apart. But Doug didn't scream, didn't lose his cool. He just held Daddy there while saying, "Betty, go outside now." I didn't hesitate. My feet flew across the room. People parted like the Red Sea. I stumbled out the front door and onto the porch. The bright Arizona sun nearly blinded me, but I didn't stop. I kept walking until I reached the big mesquite tree near the fence. My chest heaved, my hand shook. The poke pressed against me like a loaded gun. A moment later, the front door slapped open. Doug stormed out, breathing hard but steady. "Did you get it?" he asked. I nodded. "Let me see." I pulled the belt out from under my dress. His face changed. Instantly, not only worry, but fury. "What in God's name?" he muttered.
He studied their dried blood, the scratches, the carved initial. This isn't discipline, he muttered. This is torture. I looked at him, voice shaking. It's proof. No, he corrected softly. It's evidence. For a second, I felt hope, real hope, the kind that stretches itself out inside your chest after years of living small. What happens now? I whispered, Doug exhaling deeply, like he knew the storm coming next would swallow us both. We arrest him, he said. Today, my heart leapt. Finally, someone was going to stop him. But just then, the glass window behind us shut. We both turned around and shocked. Daddy was standing inside the broken frame, blood on his knuckles, eyes wild, breathing like an animal let out of a cage, and in his hand, gleaming in the sunlight, was Mama's kitchen knife. Daddy had lost control completely, and what he did next turned our quiet front yard into the most terrifying day of my life.
Daddy stood in the shattered window frame like some twisted shadow, shirt torn, breath heaving, eyes blazing with the kind of rage that doesn't wink, only destroys. And in his right hand, glinting sharp in the sunlight, was Mama's kitchen knife. Sheriff Duck instantly stepped in front of me, one arm out, blocking me like a human shield. "James," he barked, voice steady but hard enough to cut steel. "Put the knife down." Daddy didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even breathe normal. Instead, he pointed the knife straight at the sheriff. "You stole my daughter. You turned her against me." "That girl isn't your property," Doug shot back. "And everyone in this damn town knows you ain't a father. You're a bully with a vote." The words hit Daddy like a slap. His whole face twisted up into something feral. "You think you know what goes on in my home?" Daddy growled. "You think you can take my kids? Arrest me? You ain't touching a damn thing. He didn't finish, because just then 3 neighbors stepped out from behind the oak tree. Men I'd known all my life. Men who stayed quiet for years. Mr. Hal, Mr. Perkins, and Mr. Ronnie, all 3 stood shoulder to shoulder next to Doug, forming a wall between Daddy and me. "You need to calm down, James," Mr. Hal said, voice trembling but firm. "Not in front of the kids, not like this." Daddy barked out a laugh, low, ugly, breaking apart. "You cowards," he spat. "You all watched her lie, watched her talk back, watched her disrespect me. And now you want to act holy?" Doug kept his eyes on him. No clinking, no flinching. "Drop the knife. Last warning." Daddy tilted his head like he was considering it, like some part of him was searching for the smart choice. But the smart part of him died long ago. With a roar, he burst through the window broken, landing hard on the dirt. His boots slammed the ground. The knife flashed in his grip. Doug shoved me behind the tree trunk. He yelled, "Run, Betty!" But my legs wouldn't move. Fear glued me in place. My whole body froze like a deer staring at headlights. Daddy lunged. Doug dodged barely, the blade slicing the air where his arm had been. The neighbors grabbed Daddy's shoulders, trying to hold him back, but my father was strong. Too strong. He tore free, swinging the knife wildly. "You can't take my family!" His voice cracked the whole yard open. People screamed, kids ran, chickens scattered, dust flew up from the ground like the earth itself was shaking. Doug pulled out his revolver. "Stop! Drop it, James!" he shouted. Daddy didn't stop. He charged straight at me. Everything blurred. The world spun. My
heart re-crashed in my ears. I stepped backward, tripped over a root, hit the ground hard. Daddy raised the knife, and in that split second, right as the blade came down, someone slammed into him from the side. A blur of arms and legs, a crack of bones, a grunt of pain. It wasn't Doug. It wasn't one of the neighbors. It was Caleb, my 5-year-old baby brother. He leapt onto Daddy's arm and screamed, "Dolly, leave her alone!" Daddy stumbled, the knife skidding across the dirt. But Caleb, tiny, terrified Caleb, was now in Daddy's reach, and Daddy turned towards him with murder in his eyes. That was the moment the sheriff fired. One deafening shot, echoing through the yard, splitting the entire world in half. Daddy jerked, stumbled, dropped to his knees. Callum screamed my name. I scrambled of heart in my throat, running toward him. Dud ran too, gun still raised, voice shaking as he yelled, "Don't touch the knife! Nobody touch that knife!" Daddy collapsed on his side, face twisted in raging shock. But when he lifted his head, when he opened his mouth, what came out wasn't anger. What words that froze my blood. But it's... He gasped. You don't know the truth. Doug stiffing, shouting, "Stay back!" But Daddy wasn't talking to Doug. He was staring straight at me, eyes wild, fading fast. "There's something your mama never told you." With Daddy dying on the ground and the whole town in shock, his final words hinted at a secret I never saw coming. A secret that changed everything I thought I knew about my family.
Daddy lay in the dirt, the life draining out of him like water from a cracked bucket. The bullet hole in his shoulder was bleeding fast, but it wasn't the wound that scared me. It was the look in his eyes. Not angry, not wild, not violent, just strange. Like he knew something none of us did. The whole yard was chaos. Women crying, kids screaming, neighbors frozen like statues. But all I heard was Daddy's broken, rasping whisper. "Betty, your mama didn't tell you everything." My whole body went cold. Sheriff Doug knelt beside him, one hand on his chest to keep him still. "Don't talk," Doug said. "Ambulance is coming. Save your breath." But Daddy shook his head, smearing dirt across his cheek. "No, she needs to know." His eyes locked on mine, a stare sharp enough to slice right through the fear in my chest. I stepped forward, legs trembling. Caleb clung to my dress, his tiny fingers digging into my side. But I barely felt it. "What truth?" I asked. Daddy swallowed painfully, blood bubbling at the corner of his mouth. "I wasn't always the monster." His voice cracked like dry wood. "I wasn't the only one with the secrets." Doug tensed, ready to shut him up again, but Daddy pushed his hand away weakly. "You think Patricia was innocent?" He caught, heard, his whole body jerking. She lied to you, to all of you." Anger flared in my chest instantly. "No, she didn't. Mama never lied." His face twisted, half a grin, half pain. "Oh, yes, she did, especially about you." The world tilted. "About me? What about me?" I leaned in closer, heart slamming against my ribs. "What did she lie about?" I asked. Daddy's eyes glimmered with something dark. Not hatred, not love, but the sick satisfaction of someone dropping a grenade into a quiet room.
She never told you who you really are. I blinked. What are you talking about? He coughed again, blood staining the dirt beside his face. I'm not your real father. The ground disappeared beneath me. I stared at him, my mouth open, my lungs frozen, my heartbeat stuttering. What? I choked out. You're lying. He shook his head slowly. No, Patricia. She met someone before me, before the marriage. His eyes darted toward the house. She hid it. She hid you. I felt sick. My stomach twisted. My hands shook so hard I had to hide them behind my skirt. She told me Daddy was before she died. Told me you weren't mine. The breath left my body in a single punch. Mama told him. Mama, the woman who whispered warnings, who protected me, who loved me with everything she had. She told him I wasn't his? Suddenly everything made sense. Why he stared at me differently. Why his rage sharpened every time I walked in the room. Why Mama warned me he would come for me. Because I wasn't his blood. I wasn't his. I was a secret. A reminder. A mistake he wanted to erase. I stumbled backward, shaking. My brother stared at me with wide, confused eyes. Miss Karen covered her mouth like she'd been slapped. Doug's voice cut through the silence. Betty stepped back. You don't need to hear. The daddy grabbed Doug's shirt with surprising strength. And there's more. He gasped again. She never told you who your real father is. My heart dropped into my stomach. Who? I whispered, my voice barely there. Daddy looked up at the sky, breath ran. He's still alive, and he's been watching you your whole life. You're spun around me. My legs puzzled. Miss Karen caught me before I went down. Doug leaned over Daddy, frustration and disbelief in his voice. James, who is he? Say it. Who's the father? Daddy opened his mouth. Blood dripping off his lip. And then, right before the name left his tongue, his eyes rolled back. His chest rose once, twice. It stopped. Just like that, my father died. And the truth went with him. The dead liked the whole room of Dallas, but the truth was out.
Daddy died with the secret on his tongue, but the living have long memories. And the one person who knew Mama longer than anyone else pulled me aside that night and whispered a name that changed everything. Daddy's body was loaded into the ambulance, covered with a sheet that hid the violence he carried with him his whole life. The yard was spinning, neighbors talking in hushed voices, Mrs. Karen clutching my shoulders to keep me steady, my brothers crying quietly under the mesquite tree. But Doug just stood there staring at the dirt like he could still hear Daddy's last words echoing. He's still alive. He's been watching you.
I couldn't get the sense out of my head. It was a poison that crawled under my skin. If Daddy wasn't my real father, who was? Everything I thought I knew about myself, about Mama, about our family, it all cracked open like thin ice. The sun dipped lower, painting everything gold and red, and the chill in the air felt wrong for Arizona. Wrong for a date like this, wrong for a truth like that. When the crowd finally thinned, Mrs. Karen pulled me aside, her face pale, her lips tight. She didn't look like the warm neighbor I knew. She looked like a woman sitting on a secret too heavy to carry anymore. Betty, she whispered, glancing around to make sure nobody else was close. My throat felt like sandpaper. Just tell me, I said, please. She took a shaky breath. You know, your mama and I grew up together since we were little. We told each other everything, except one thing she never wanted to speak of again. My heart crawled up into my throat. What thing? I whispered. Mrs. Karen looked me dead in the eye, and I swore I thought the world still around us. Your real daddy. My blood froze. Doug stepped closer when he saw our faces. What's going on? He asked softly. Mrs. Karen didn't break eye contact with me. Your mama got pregnant before she married James. No, Mama would have told me. She didn't tell anyone, Mrs. Karen said. Not for years, not till she was forced to. My voice barely came out. Who is he? Mrs. Karen wiped a tear from her cheek. When your mama was 18, she worked at that little diner outside town. There was a man who came through every few weeks. Real smooth talker, big smile, and tipped well, too well. I swallowed hard. And he charmed your mama, told her she was special, told her he'd come back for her. Her voice lowered, but he already had a wife, a family, kids in another town. My stomach twisted. He tricked her. Yes, Mrs. Karen whispered, and when she found out she was pregnant, he disappeared, vanished. I felt something crack inside me. Mama carried that pain alone, carried me alone, and then marrying Daddy, hoping he'd protect her. But he didn't protect her. He punished her. So a sissy cat wasn't even her fault. My breath trembled. What was his name? Mrs. Karen hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. The name mattered. The name meant trouble. I stepped closer. What was his name? She finally whispered it. Raymond Holloway. The yard around me faddish. My knees almost buckled. Raymond Holloway wasn't just a man. He was a story in our town, a legend, a ghost. The traveling salesman who visited every few months. The man who always left whispers behind. That man people said had too many friends in too many places. I stared at Mrs. Karen's side, but he left. He disappeared. She nodded slowly. He did. Then she grasped toward the dirt road, but he didn't stay gone. Doug sound, what do you mean? Mrs. Karen's eyes filled with dread. He came back last year, real quiet, bought that old cabin by the creek, told folks he was retiring. My heart slammed against my ribs. He's been around? Mrs. Karen nodded, and he asked about you. The world tilted so hard I had to grab the sense. He what? She stepped closer, voice trembling. Betty, I think he's been watching you. Just like James said. The air went cold. My hand shook. Raymond Holloway, my blood father, a man I never met, was living 10 minutes away, watching, waiting. They'll swallow his breath. That's it. I'm taking you somewhere safe. But why would he watch me? I asked, voice breaking. Mrs. Karen wrapped her arms around me because men like him never leave their shadows behind.
Later that night, someone knocked on my door, slow, deliberate, like they knew exactly who they were there for. And when I opened it, everything Mama tried to protect me from finally arrived.
Thank you for staying with us through this emotional journey. If this story hit your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe. You won't want to miss the next one. And tell us in the comments,